Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are going to be showing off some footage from Purifying Tide Mareia. Unless you've been living under a rock, you're aware that she's been causing waves, tee-hee, specifically as she relates to Valkyries. If you are unaware, you don't need to read pretty much any of this. You only need to read the last line here. Increases the duration of all control effects carried by all enemies by 1 round. So effectively what this means is that you can put a CC effect on the Valks round 1. I'm not going to do a demonstration because then we have to depend on Dragon Rui. It's not going to be fun. But you can put a round 1 CC effect on the Valks, be it Twine from TBB or Stun from Wukong. And then she can just, in theory, drag it out in perpetuity forever until the stage is cleared. And it is indeed as OP as it sounds. It does work flawlessly. And of course, there will be footage that I have to show you. This might actually even work out to be a bit of a longer video because the fights are rather long and we have to commentate over them. One thing to note before we get into it and we discuss the potential flaws. If we go over to Weaponry of Valor, number 6, you see right here this pink treasure that is not activated. If we read the description, after releasing the active skill, if an enemy has been an adjacent target of chromatic overflow and attacked by it 2 or more times, additionally deals 400% attack damage to them with a 30% chance to freeze them for 2 rounds. So this essentially gives her a control effect inherent to her active skill, which means she will no longer be able to extend CC effects against Valks because she will then be just reapplying them constantly. And so it is very self-defeating in that way. Probably makes her a stronger candidate for PvP teams. I imagine she is quite good for PvP as it is. But for Valks, if you have this turned on, you just won't be able to make use of her. And for some, that might be a little bit heartbreaking because as I alluded to, the strategy is rather strong, definitely strong. So we're going to go over to my camera roll real quick. We'll see here, I was just underlining the point where it's a problem. 30% chance to freeze. And then we'll go over here, and we have our first fight with IEA as the damage dealer. Now, IEA is a pretty good candidate for leveraging Mareia's ability to extend CC because, one, IEA herself also loves complete flawless energy feed with only active skills. She doesn't like basics very much. And so she and Mareia are alike in that sense. And so the amount of energy that you have to fluctuate is pretty much the same for both of them. And so they synergize, they like working with each other in that aspect there. And so the rest of the team, the speed order might be a little bit different. You'll notice we have DGN at the very end, and she is the one with the plume. The reason for this is twofold. One, she is at the end so that she can move as many debuffs as she can. So at the end of each round, she'll be the final hero acting, and then she will move debuffs. So all the debuffs placed by the allies within that round can be moved around. Pretty good idea. Increases her damage output, which is going to turn out to be negligible. She's B tier on my account, so no big deal. And the plume I have at the very end because as long as the enemies are outspeeding you, if you have doves applied at the very end of the round, they will be applied in the round transition, so you can't hit them out of it before the fight ends, before the round ends, and then their turn will be missed if the doves hold into the next round. So plume at the very end rather than at the start seems like a pretty good idea. The only reason you would use plume at the start is if, one, you wanted it on the Star Alchemist Holmes, who likes to be fast generally, and you were going to run Wukong right under him so that you could have a chance to put a stun on top of a doved Valkyrie, because no reactive burns would be triggered there. But so that was a round 16 fight against Valks. We're going to go for it again, just so you can all see what's going on, because we haven't finished talking yet. And this is another area of concern here. IEA had 475 million attack. By no means is that overstated for Chapter 13. That seems to be pretty reasonable, if not a little bit under what many people are clearing with. Williams notwithstanding. But it's not low either. And we went 16 rounds and did not kill, which is rather concerning. You might be wondering why the freeze just went out there. Mareia actually failed energy feed, got a basic attack. She is freeze in her basic attack. And it did not kill our team because the Valks that got frozen were also sealed at the time, and so their passive skills were not active. But, so now we can pay a little bit closer attention here. The win condition is not a CC and nuke, as has been the meta for months, if not years, plural now. It is now, you basically CC lock with Mareia and the insta-death on the Wukong, so he doesn't keep on reapplying and killing you, until the Bloom Star Soul, the burst skill, applies dot reduction, or dot immunity rather, to your team. There's a 1 in 5 chance for that to be the buff that gets applied, and at level 21 it actually unlocks the ability to have 3 chances out of that pool of 5 to give you the dot immunity. So as the fight goes on and more bursts go out, it gets more and more likely that you'll roll the dot immunity. And so this fight, I pretty confidently say, would have been a win if IEA had rolled it. She did not get that lucky, I'm afraid. You see the burn still active on DGN, not on Mareia nor Wukong. Oh, Maria's not burn immune either. That's it's interesting. Did I say Wukong? Yormtum definitely burn immune. You see no burns going out there. If the team had rolled that, I reckon that would have been a pretty good victory, pretty awesome clip. Sadly, we didn't get one, but what can you do? And we're going to watch this one more time as we discuss the last problem here. This video that we're seeing is by no means representative. It's not a very consistent thing, because while we can extend the CC in theoretically forever, in theory forever, they can still purify it. And so you have to kind of spam as many debuffs as possible. Not exactly a simple feat, especially for dragging it on as so long as it was round 16 here. Not a simple task. Rather difficult. Many fights resulted in early purifications and then the subsequent atomization of my team. But the win condition is here. I think it's pretty clearly demonstrated. IEA, again, a good candidate if you want to use the Mareia strategy. She likes perfect energy feed, similarly to Mareia. And also, she inverts stat buffs. So the skill damage and attack buffs that Flame Strikes passively grant themselves, those don't stack as much when IEA is your damage dealer. And so she makes it a little bit more safe for your team on the whole to survive. So your risk of death here decreased if you're using IEA as your damage dealer. SSM, really, really sad about this, if it's to become meta anyway. I don't suspect it will become as meta as some might be saying. But SSM really not going to be able to make use of this. One, because he taunts, so that slot 3 Valk will constantly be at risk of being taunted, which will just, send SSM to a very early grave. And also, SSM, pretty much once he chases for 2 to 3 rounds, depending on how good the chases are, he just swaps to his defensive stance. His damage output drops significantly, and that's not going to be good, because now the fight needs to last even longer because your damage dealer has effectively gone on break, and he won't return from break until he starts taking damage from actives and basics and can swap back to his defensive stance. So SSM, really not a fan of this strategy. Don't worry though, IEA is not the only candidate damage dealer for this. And with that, I think we move over to our other one. This is going to be Doom Terminator Vulcan, actually. He does enjoy staggered active skills, so that his basic attack can give himself some ammo and time to conserve ammunition into a subsequent round when he can have more buffs. on there. The damage output, definitely better than IEA's for sure for this. It is slightly concerning though. Yeah, you can, sorry, forgive that ping. Slightly concerning though because DTV does have a freeze chance, which in my testing with DTV all the past few days, the freeze has been very inconsistent. He doesn't do it very often. He did right there, of course. But it's not a common thing, really. You see he rolled the burn immunity round 10 there. Round 10 death. Damage was pretty good. IEA failed to get many kills, even by, round 12, 13, when she survived to. DTV getting them much earlier. And unfortunately, I didn't test Nirvana Yorm Tum with DTV. I neglected to do so. So DTV will be built back up shortly in the near future. I do have another video about DTV planned. But yeah, not very good. The damage, quite nice. I think DTV and IEA are perhaps the most suited of the existing damage dealers to do this. SSM not going to have a good time. RFW probably not going to have a good time because of his repeated silences. But you might be thinking, what the hell's with all the damage, man? And what the hell indeed. The damage is very bad. And the reason for that is because in order to make Mareia work, you not only have to remove one hero to put Mareia in herself, you also need to have your CC hero, who is usually Wukong, die instantly. So now you're out 2 support heroes who could otherwise be buffing your damage in order to make this strategy work. And that just turns out to be not exactly the easiest trade-off to win with. Damage greatly reduced when trying to leverage this strat. It of course does work. But man, it really does hurt having those extra supports. Because one, like if you wanted LBRM in, she would be able to, reduce damage reduction, boost all damage dealt pretty good. Wukong's death, of course, also hurts. You lose out on holy damage and all damage dealt and damage reduction. Does he give all damage dealt? I don't know. The point is, you lose a lot of damage with Wukong early death. And so, I struggle to say that she will be meta. She would certainly be more helpful against Holmes Youngs than Flame Strikes, because with Flame Strikes you have to make sure that their stats don't get too high. You always have to keep those attribute reductions cycling, because Valks burn the whole team at the end of every round. And so if they're not sufficiently attack reduced, they just kind of wipe your squad and you don't live even if the CC lock holds. Not the greatest situation. But so the best possible damage dealer in my eyes for leveraging Mareia is actually Mareia herself. If you're unfamiliar with her kit, I recommend hopping on in game and taking a look. She does deal a lot of damage. The numbers are there. And so I think the best way to use Mareia, unfortunately it is going to turn out to be a bit of a niche strategy, but I think she's going to be a cracked out damage dealer in her own right. I think being able to supply the damage and the CC extension using a single hero slot with Mareia as your, giant killer damage dealer. Of course, don't use any Destiny accumulation because her Destiny has freeze inbuilt. But, syncing those up to a single hero slot lets you put in at least one other damage support. Melissa would be my choice for that. And I think that would be pretty good, actually. She's a good damage dealer. Very strong in PvP. Haven't seen many people use her in PvE yet. But there are those with giant killer copies who are testing. And yeah, so that's kind of my view. The best way to use Mareia is with Mareia as your own damage dealer. She enables herself more than she enables others, until the point at which we get more damage reduction, removal, or other buffs via an artifact or another power system. But yeah, DTV and IEA, following closely behind. I do absolutely need to test DTV and Yormtum again. I did not give DTV the fairest shake here. And in fact, I reckon he could clear this. He and IEA can both clear this definitely. But the odds are not very high, and in fact, I struggle to say that they'd be much higher than just running the Balance Strike and Nuke RNG strat, both of which probably will grow stale on you rather quickly unless you're just using a macro. Both valid, of course. The win conditions are seen. They're simple to achieve, not necessarily easy to achieve. But yeah, I'm not as I don't think she's going to be as meta shaping as initially thought. Early on, I reckon she's cracked because there's not as much damage reduction on the enemies. So she would help Wukong for sure, especially early on when you don't have sufficient energy feed. So Wukong staggers active skills. He gets basics just because you can't feed energy that well. Mareia would probably be great. She would make the CC last a bit longer. That would probably be good. But yeah, I'm not gonna be particular. I'm not gonna be using her that much. I think that's all she wrote, right? Not that I wrote anything in preparation for this. But yeah, I'm gonna give DTV another try with Nirvana Yormtum this time. Yormtum. I think that should go well, just so he can seal the backline with his Nirvana skill, prevent the passives from building up. DTV seems pretty evident that he can clear this. IEA, pretty obvious that he can clear this. SSM and RFW would have a harder time. I think they're better off using Balance Strike and Nuke. But with that, I think that's all I got for you. We'll watch the IEA one more time just because it's a bit more satisfying. But yeah, just so we can watch the Nirvana Yormtum work. You see here, seals 3 of the backline heroes, pretty awesome. So those flame strikes, they are not going to be dishing out passive burns. They're not going to be gaining their stats at the very end of the round. Pretty awesome. DTV. Oh, yes, I forgot to mention. I did forget to mention. DTV, I think it's his D3 skill. It's D2, 3, or 4. Sorry. Sorry, I don't remember. He's still new to me-ish. It actually feeds energy to the backline. So while you lose a hero slot with DTV, he can supplement the energy feed for the prolonging of the CC lock, because Mareia absolutely does need, as mentioned before, perfect energy feed. So DTV helps there. DTV, IEA, both great candidates to try to use this strategy, especially when you're not overstated. When you're overstated, she's just great for pretty much everybody, because you don't need to risk the Wukong stuns at all. But yeah, that's kind of how we're sitting. Great hero, very cool. Probably mostly helpful to herself than to other damage dealers. But it's a fun strategy nonetheless. I'll tell you what, I had a whole lot more fun trying attempts with this strategy than the nuke and the CC and nuke strat with Balance Strike. Balance Strike makes me want to die quite a lot. I felt much less like I wanted to die when I was watching these fights. They were actually pretty fun. But yeah, round 16 against Valks. Sadly, only one hero rolled the bird immune. Otherwise, I reckon that would have been a pretty sweet victory for us. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. Love you. Bye-bye.